Can do it, ladies and gentlemen, and it is Labor Day weekend, and we are here with Brent Watkins. We're about to enjoy another episode of the Pavelcast. Welcome to the show, Brent.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
There you are. So you right now are in, where are we? We're inside your little garage space?
Yeah. I'm just hanging out in my garage right now, getting away from the kids.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. How is it hard to step away on Labor Day weekend for a little podcast action?
No, it's great. Been home with me all week, so.
That's good. All right, well, let's tell people a little bit about your story here. So, I think it starts out in New Orleans. Is that where are you from exactly?
Yeah, I'm from New Orleans, from around this area. Mm-hmm.
Born and raised?
Yeah, born and raised.
So you were from New Orleans. You are just like, you grew up there. Like, do you understand, like, you're part of, are you Cajun, Creole? Like, tell me about that. Like, what's the deal here with
it? Yeah, I guess you can call it Cajun. So my grandpa, an oyster farmer, my dad, oyster farmer as well. I didn't end up going into business, went to IT instead. But they were also oyster farmers when they came over from France. So they're not like Cajun from Acadia, but they come from France.
And in France, people also farm oysters? Where?
Yep.
On the ocean?
No, off the coast, in the tidal waters and stuff. South coast of France.
And how does that work? So in New Orleans, your grandpa, he shows up, he like speaks French only, and he like, do you know when they moved to this country?
Oh, no. So it was like a few generations before him that moved back. But yeah. Like, so in France, they just chip the oysters off the rocks with a chisel. Mm-hmm. Here, we dredge off the bottom of the marsh.
So we have a bottom of the marsh in some of these New Orleans waters, and you guys go in, oysters, and you like just pick them up versus like...
Oh, yeah. So there's like two ways to do it. So like it's a lot more like farming than it is like fishing, because you got to like prepare the bottom of the bed with like limestone or concrete or other hard materials that build up and the oysters can like latch onto. Mm-hmm. And then you build like a plateau on the bottom of the marsh, and then you drag your dredge like a big rake across it, and it scoops up all the oysters.
And how long does it take for an oyster to grow there?
Like 3 years or so.
You have to seed them yourself?
Yeah. So they have like public oyster grounds. You can go dredge and get baby oysters, and then go bring those oysters back to your grounds, and then they'll grow and multiply.
Do you like eating oysters?
I like fried oysters, charbroiled oysters. I don't really eat them raw.
Have you ever tried?
Like I will sometimes with other people. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I used to love raw oysters. I had a bad experience eating raw oysters at some like college bar, which was a mistake. Don't order oysters at a college bar. It was a good deal though, and then I was like sick for a day and a half, like buying it out of all ends. And now I'm still getting back into oysters. All right, so you could have, and then I think you told me before, like, how do you own the oyster grounds? Because is it public land?
Yeah, so it's all water's owned by the government. You have to go stake out land that's not already claimed by somebody else, and then have a surveyor come out, and then for a fee, they'll survey the lot and put those coordinates into the database, and so like you now own that lease, and then you pay taxes on it every year.
And so your family still owns some of that land?
Yeah, they still leasing it from the government. Yeah.
Dope. When you were a kid, did you go out there oyster hunting?
Yeah, I went out there a few times. Never to like oyster farms. It's a lot of heavy machinery and stuff like that. But we'd go out there fishing and stuff like that around the area.
What kind of heavy machinery is it? Like the rakers, like a heavy machinery kind of deal?
Yeah, like the chains and the winches and stuff like that.
Do you have a top? Like I poured myself a little bourbon because I know you're my whiskey. I assume you're prepared. We waited till it's 3 p.m. Central. It's a holiday weekend. To the whiskey, right? It is something that is kind of special. I'm glad that we can enjoy it together. What are you sniffing?
Glen Rotha's Sherry Cask 2004 vintage.
What do you remember the first time you had whiskey?
No, probably at like some bar somewhere.
And you were like young, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
How like tell me how you got to becoming kind of a, if I may use the word, connoisseur.
Is it connoisseur?
Like,
Yeah, I will say. So right after our second kid was born, my wife went out of town for a work trip, and I had both the kids by myself for like a week.
you're like,
And I was like,
that's
as soon as she got back, I was like, I'm going to the liquor store. I'll see you later.
oh my
And
god.
a dude at the counter store pointed me to something good. So ever since.
Well, okay, so you went to a liquor store. You wanted to have a drink. Why was it whiskey? Why wasn't it a bottle of wine or gin or whatever?
Because I'd always drank like a highball, like mainly Crown Royal 7, 7 and 7.
I see. So you were drinking whiskey all the time, and now you're like, you know what? I need a treat.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get something good today.
And what was it? Do you remember?
Glendronach 18 allergies.
So this is a Scottish whiskey.
Yeah, it was a Scotch. I actually went there for a rye, and then the guy pointed me to this instead.
And rye is basically only made in America, or no? They make it everywhere. Rye whiskey.
They do make it everywhere, but mostly in the U.S. Yeah.
And do you have a sense of like where does whiskey come from? Where did it first originate?
They say a long time ago in China, they were
Everything
fermenting
is always in
grains.
China. They got the
That's right.
noodles in China, fireworks, chopsticks, whiskey too. What is it? So
Yeah.
what defines whiskey versus vodka? You know what I mean?
Fermented grains, pretty much, is what makes it a whiskey. Whether it's barley, wheat, whatever, rye.
But
And then
vodka is
so
also
from
fermented. No, it's not fermented. It's distilled. Is that the difference?
yeah, distilled, yeah. Because the mash is fermented.
Can you tell
That's
us
what
how
it gives the
whiskey is
warmth.
made, like at a high level?
Oh, yeah, so that's a hard one. I don't know. So
Well,
they take the malted barley from really high level. They take that for a single malt anyway. They take that barley, they malt it on the floors. If they peat it,
what
they're
does it
gonna
mean?
smoke it
What
and
does it
dry
mean
it.
to malt something?
So when you let the barley germinate, when it just starts to germinate,
Okay.
that's malting. When it starts opening up, that's when it starts turning all those carbohydrates and stuff.
And then when it starts to germinate, it's basically kind of like a little seedling coming out of it that's trying to grow.
Yeah, pretty much. See, that's what's malting something is you're starting to germinate it, and
And
that's what they
what's
use.
peating?
Peating, so that's like they take the Scottish marsh that they used to use for like fuel and fire to burn, so they dry the malted barley over that peat smoke, and so that's what gives peated whiskey its smoky flavor.
Oh, I didn't know that. So you light on fire this moss thing that can be lit on fire. Unclear why.
Yeah, it's like chunks of bog they cut out like blocks.
Interesting. And then that creates a smoke. And so this peating process, does that take like an hour or 100 days?
It depends on how heavily peating they are, but it could be from like a few hours to like, maybe a day or day and a half.
Okay.
It just depends on what that process is.
Do you have a preference for peat?
Yeah, I think I like peated better.
And so
At
now that
least
it's
slightly peated.
okay, so now that it's dry and peated, what happens next?
So after that barley's peated, they're gonna stick it in the mash with the water and stir that up.
Stir it up.
Yep.
And then what?
Make the wort.
Make the what?
And that's what the wort, they call it the wort that ferments.
Mm. And then how
with
long
the
does that
yeast
take?
and other stuff, water, barley yeast. And then from there, they let it sit in there, ferment. And then that's when they go and distill it. And so
And
the distill
then
will separate out, those liquids and oils. And depending on the shape of the still, like different compounds make it further up the still. So you can have different flavored whiskeys by shaping that still differently when that steam goes up and out.
And still is like with this, like people not familiar, it's like
It's what
how moonshine is made.
Yeah, that's what they put that mash into, and then they boil it and heat it up, and then it evaporates and goes out the top of the still. That's when distilling occurs.
And then it condenses to become liquor.
Yep. Well, yeah, it condenses to become that spirit that they put in the barrels.
Interesting. And then, like when it's 18 years or 25 years older, that's when it just sits in barrels for that long.
Yeah, that's how long it's sat in the barrels for.
Then what happens during that time?
So it depends on the kind of environment that cask is kept in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a very hot and dry environment, the water at the cask is going to evaporate out faster than the alcohol. But if you're in a cold, wet environment, the alcohol is going to evaporate faster than the water. So just give you a different flavor from the same distillate, same barrel. You just put in a different part of your warehouse, end up with a totally different whiskey.
And what about age though? Like 10 versus 20?
Yeah, so it's like different chemicals or different compounds that it pulls out of the wood, out of the barrel over that time.
Are you in pain right now?
No, I'm not in pain. Am I in pain? I was just thinking what's going on.
What is going on in that fucking barrel? There's no wrong answers here, man. It's all so pathetic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that barrel is like breathing in and out. So it kind of like filters some of the bad stuff out of the whiskey you don't want into that charcoal layer that's on the barrel. Mm-hmm. And then stuff that comes out will be flavors from either, if it's a freshly charred barrel, it'd be more of those like cinnamon and vanilla notes. But if it was like a bourbon barrel it used to be in, it'll be much fruitier, or it could have been a sherry barrel, it would pull those flavors out instead.
And they also do barrels that are just complete wood, like nothing else has happened in there before?
Yep, they call those virgin oak barrels. In general, you wouldn't have a scotch in there for that long because it would just overpower the malt.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever tried making your own?
No,
not yet. Soon though. And so that's your introduction. You go for the Scotch, and then you obviously have explored all the different countries and whiskey makings. I mean, you're close to Kentucky, out of New Orleans. How's the community? How's the community across different countries? Is it really a global community, or are people kind of really territorial to say like, I'm from Scotland, Scotch whiskey is the best. I'm from Kentucky, everything else is bullshit, only bourbon is good. Do you find that?
I mean, yeah, there's both sides. Like often when you start drinking one spirit, maybe, like you're just drawn towards it. You like it so much, you just don't drink the other things. Mm. But, I think as you drink more of one type of whiskey, you're just going to want to explore naturally, to see what else is out there.
And what do you like about drinking it?
It just tastes good, mouthfeel.
Tastes good, mouthfeel. Let's try it. I bet something to do with the alcohol and how it affects your body as well has something to do with it.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Talk to us a little bit about, and I'll drop the whiskey topic, but talk to us a little bit about the ABV, like how that affects the flavoring of the whiskey or the enjoyment of it, or obviously the alcohol in your bloodstream.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, higher ABV almost always will impart more intense flavor, more intense smell, more intense feeling in your mouthfeel. Mm. If it's more oily whiskey, it's going to cling longer. Mm. And then if you have a very high ABV whiskey, when you start adding water to it, it can bring, different flavors out of it that you weren't getting before. A lot of times it'll be flavors maybe that were hiding behind such a high ABV. But if you're already given a 43 ABV whiskey, you can't really add that much water to it to play around with it.
Okay.
So I feel like it's always better to have that option with a higher ABV whiskey.
it feels like high ABV is like more for professionals and like I mean professionals is the wrong word, but people that are into whiskey, quote unquote, versus you know schlumps like me. But like this is also beyond 40%. Like the I'm drinking Woodford Reserve, just classic
Hmm.
stuff, big bottle, Costco style. Shout out Costco, number one sponsor. Costco, sponsor me. Yeah, right. Costco, get on it. Um, interesting. Okay. Do you people that have never had whiskey before in their lives, or maybe only had something very easy or something very accessible like a Jack Daniels, and you want them potentially to open up their palates or explore the world of whiskeys? I'm sure it's hard, but care to kind of throw some names out there, something accessible, but also something that can kind of go from, this is not Jack Daniels. This is not whatever. What's another Jack Daniels like? Something with a J. Jameson. That's Irish whiskey. I would love to.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, Irish whiskey is good too. Canadian Club. You like Canadian whiskey? There's all these whiskeys in the world. I don't understand. Like, so this Canadian Club, is that really different than American whiskey?
Yeah, it's a Canadian whiskey. So Canadian whiskeys have different laws than bourbon as well, or American whiskeys. Like they can add flavoring and do lower ABVs, stuff like that.
Who makes up these rules? Why?
Uh, so in the U.S., I mean, they had a whole bunch of laws surrounding bourbon because they were making whiskey out of stuff like tobacco spit and whatever else, whatever they
Really?
can cut the liquor with. Yeah. Hmm. And so we used to use whiskey for medicine in the U.S. And so the doctors needed a way to be able to prescribe whiskey that they knew what the patient was getting.
What are we treating with whiskey back then?
What we treat anything? They treat everything whiskey back then.
Would you
Yeah.
gargle it? Just drink it? Like what was? That's crazy. This is real, huh? What is this? Like 1800s?
Yeah, like 1800s.
They got nothing else. They got like Coca-Cola with cocaine in it, and they got fucking whiskey. Try both, see what happens.
Yeah.
Damn.
So about then they created the Bottled in Bond Act, which the whiskey at the time had to be matured from a single distiller of a single season, and matured in a cask in a government supervised warehouse, and bottled at 50% ABV. And so, from there's been quite a few laws to protect the liquor industry because it is, is a substance that people shouldn't be really playing around with or cutting up. You really need to know what's in there.
What's it mean to cut it up? So they would use the tobacco spit inside the fermentation process or afterwards?
I'm not sure. I wasn't making counterfeit whiskey back then, but at least they'd probably the after product. They'd probably mix that in there.
Disgusting. Okay. And do you have a preference? Like out of all the different types of whiskeys, for example, I've been not just a little while ago. We had like really good Japanese whiskey available in the California supermarkets, Vons. I wasn't able to find it in La Jolla. It might still be available in the PB one. I really enjoyed drinking that. It was kind of Scotch-like to me, but also not really. It was like I was drinking the Hibiki, like the good one.
The Hibiki Harmony.
I believe
in like this round fancy bottle.
That's it. Yeah, that's good one. Right?
Yeah, I like that one.
Anyways,
it's hard to find good Japanese whiskey these days.
Yeah, everybody's fucking it's hard. So let's go back. First of all, what is your favorite? But before you answer that, answer the first question. So for -1 all, not first, so 0 all. What do you recommend people try to kind of go from Jack Daniels and on?
Yeah, I mean, so if you're looking for like another bourbon, I'd probably try something like Elijah Craig Small Batch.
This is something you've told me before. Okay, so what about if you're looking for a Scotch? Is there a budget Scotch? Really. Do people drink budget Scotch? I mean, is Dewar's Scotch?
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah, Dewar's, it's a blended Scotch. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how do you go a step? How do you pretend to become a connoisseur?
So it's like which direction do you want to head in? So you could do something like the Glenmorangie sampler pack, good value. It's like $50 or so for 4 small bottles. 200 milliliters, I think you can try. And so you could try their 10-year-old, their sherry finished, their sauternes finished, and their port finished. And you can get an idea of like what you really like in the Highlands or Space Out area. But if you already know you like peated, of course you go to like Lafroig or Ardbeg or, Lagavulin, one of those.
Is Obag peated?
Very, very lightly.
I enjoy that. I enjoy the light peatiness it brings to my mouth.
Yeah, a lot of coastal flavors.
What about, is there a good Canadian whiskey? Like high-end?
The Canadians like to keep the good Canadian whiskey north of the border.
They don't even send it down?
Very little of it. Like Lot 40 is a good Canadian whiskey. Crown Royal has been making actually some good high-end Canadian whiskeys, which is surprising.
Are they a Canadian company? No.
Yeah. Crown Royal, yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's hard. Like, it's hard for a lot of people to get past the Crown Royal name and still pay like $70 for a bottle of Crown Royal.
Crown Royal, I thought it was brandy. It's not. Maybe they do make a brandy. It is whiskey, Crown Royal?
Yep, Canadian whiskey.
It's always Canadian whiskey? Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. What do you want your kids to be when they grow up? I mean, that's a stupid question.
Yeah, I don't know. I want them to be able to do whatever they want. You
don't care what it is? Do you feel like you want them to be like rich or successful? Nothing that makes them poor.
Yeah, nothing that makes them poor. Try and push them away from, job opportunities that don't pay well.
So what is that in today's society?
You can't even offend somebody, right? Once you start calling jobs out that aren't.
I'm sorry. I meant to say, what is the opposite of that? It's like, what would you push them into where you think the future is? You can say that.
You're right. Everybody, you become a doctor or a lawyer, right? And if you
I think that's stupid.
Then we got to find something. I know.
No, I think you don't think it's, I see, I'm big on digital stuff, like computer stuff, like data stuff and like,
yeah, it's hard to say where it'll be in like, 15 years from now.
Well, what is your prediction? You think we're gonna hit like some dead block and we're gonna go back to the dark ages where we're not gonna need more computer shit? Maybe it's possible. Like we'll kind of correct.
Yeah, I mean, will AI be commoditized at that point or not? Right.
And if it is, then like all these jobs are getting nom 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 nom. Beep.
Yeah, well, it won't be the jobs that AI replaces. It'll be the job. How efficiently can you work with the AI to do your job better? I think that's be where you succeed. Right? Those who can use the AI the best, not those who try and compete with the AI.
Cannot compete with AI for sure.
Yeah.
Where are you on self-driving?
I'm sorry, come again?
I accept your apology. It was a deep apology, and it was very nice of you to offer it. Where do you stand on self-driving?
I mean, we'll get there at some point to where I want it. We're almost there now.
Yeah, care to like make a guess of when it's like accessible as like a, on your app as an a la Uber, so accessible to everybody cheaply?
5 years. I think 5 years.
That's my man. See, optimistic. I also think it's going to be like something like 5 years, even though a lot of people think it's impossible. But I think we're really close. And I think once you break the barrier, it'll very quickly.
GM already has some of those self-driving taxis running around, huh?
I mean,
Tesla's, like a little cube.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them trying it. Yeah. I think no one has perfected the technology. I think Tesla is ahead, but.
What about the new Lucid Air?
What's that? Don't know what that
is. That's the new Tesla killer that they're releasing any day now, like specs about it.
It's a
like
Tesla
Lucid
killer.
Air Dream Edition, yeah, like 1,000 60 horsepower or something. 9.9 seconds in the quarter mile.
Who's making that?
Lucid, company Lucid.
And they're like some
Like a
electric company
new.
startup.
Yeah, they've been around for a few years, but this is their first production vehicle. They're claiming you'll be able to be delivering what by next year.
Luxury EV, electric sedan. It's an American automotive company. Company was founded and is based in Newark, California, '07. And the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia owns 67% of it. Wow. Um, do you think I should become a stand-up star?
A stand-up star?
Should I try? I mean, I made you laugh on the podcast.
Yeah, I think you can do some stand-up. Some not particularly stand-up, but improv.
Yeah, you think I'm more of an improv guy?
Yeah, definitely improv. Stand-up, it requires the jokes like a lot of time and preparation, and some of your best jokes are just like off the cuff, right? Just like in the moment.
That's
feeding off the energy around you.
Exactly, that's a real interesting insight. Huh. All right. Yeah, because I always poo-pooed improv, and I've always been more into stand-up. But at the same time,
really?
Yeah, well, because also you don't really like my hero, like a Jerry Seinfeld, or writers like Larry David. I mean, these are not improv guys. There is something about
They
being
did
able to
Second
write a
City though,
joke.
huh? Did Seinfeld do Second City?
Larry David might have. I don't know
Okay.
if Seinfeld ever did. I think Seinfeld was always doing. I could be wrong. Just straight comedy clubs. Yeah, that's a good point. You come out, so then you come out and you're kind of an entertainer, and I do feel like I have this a bit of an entertainer gene, which I like exercising.
Mm-hmm.
How do you define intelligence?
Oh, that's a tough question. I'm not sure.
I think you're allowed to answer
Ability
that
to. It's like a combination of a bunch of different things. You could be like really intelligent in one area, but not so much in another area. Right? So you can be very good at maybe reading comprehension, understanding what you're reading and learning that skill, but very bad at reading a person and how that person is going to react to what you say.
That's interesting.
There's definitely different kinds of intelligence. But yeah, just skill or ability in a particular area or something can show intelligence. And how do you measure that and compile all that intelligence and then give your score? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. I don't think there's any perfect tool. Did you ever take the SATs?
A long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time for everybody. You don't remember, what did you get as a score?
ACT like 34 or something. Just a long time ago.
ACT? You didn't take the SAT?
No, I didn't take the SAT. None of the schools I was applying to needed a SAT score.
Your SAT score, according to this tool, is 1520, 1550, yeah, and I got a 1520. So that's real high. That's real high. So did you have to study a lot for it, or did it come to you more naturally?
No, took it once that year.
You didn't do any test prep?
Nah, not really.
How did you become smart then? It just naturally happened. Do you think it comes
just interested in things, just curious and interest. So you explore a bunch of different areas.
How did you explore it back then, though?
Big like to read. I love to read. Yeah, school library in particular. It was the only real library I had access to.
Tell me about that. Like, so what how you would be able to get books like anytime you wanted?
Yeah. Just go check out books from the library.
And how many books would you go through?
Oh, that I have no idea.
But would you like take a book and read it there for a second, or would you always just take them and go home and read them at home, or read them in class?
Do
Or
like a short story, read it there. But yeah, probably a lot of reading during class too. You're not
yeah,
paying attention to the teacher at
not
all.
paying attention to the teacher at all, just hiding it. All right.
Yep.
So that's another. And did your parents encourage it, or this is something that's happened naturally?
Just kind of something that happened, I guess, because we lived like down the road in the middle of nowhere, with only dial-up internet.
Do you think there's a genetic component? Like, do you find some intelligence of yourself in your mom or dad?
Yeah, I guess so.
Both, either.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
It's hard to separate it out.
They do. Yeah, they do. They have different interests as well. They do. They aren't interested in the same things either.
What's your dad interested in?
Like cars and building stuff.
How about your mom?
Yeah, she was always more into books.
So now you're a perfect combination of you like cars and
That...
building things and book reading.
Yeah, I guess so.
What's your current wife into?
She's a book reading. She's upstairs reading right now.
Got it. So you're doubling down on the book reading.
Yeah.
It's smart. I never read as much as I should.
Yeah, very sad in the demise of Barnes and Noble and paper books in general.
Yeah.
Like, the Kindle's convenient, but there's nothing like holding the paper in the hand and the book. Just smells different.
Feels
like
different.
The pages and the ink, yeah.
So do you still read a lot by actual books?
Only certain books. Sorry.
You're cool.
Yeah, only read certain books that I'm very interested in. Otherwise, I'll just read it on the Kindle. So like Brandon Sanderson, he's one of my favorite authors.
What kind of books does he write?
Like, so he writes in a few different genres, but like one of his specialties is world building. So he builds like worlds and magic systems and stuff like that. So he does like fantasy, but he also does like Western novels and space novels, but it's all fiction.
Cool. Does he usually do series?
Yeah, he usually does series. And so most of his books have like an overarching theme that he calls like the Cosmere. So like a lot of his books are intertwined. There's like also there's a lot to keep straight, when all your books cross.
You like that about him? He's making your brain work.
Yeah, and so it's interesting because it's more than just him. He has like a bunch of assistants and fact checkers and stuff that help him write his books. And so like he produces a massive amount of content. He's not like George R.R. Martin, who may never finish Game of Thrones. He's written like 5 or 10 books at a time. It takes George to write one. More than that, probably.
He's a fucking machine.
Yeah.
Team.
He's a machine. He has a process. His own publishing company. So like he's able to produce high quality content fast. It's like a very modern day author.
I love that. Is he on Instagram?
Yeah, and he's on all the social media. And so he's doing things recently like doing Kickstarters to release leather-bound special editions of his books that have been going very well. And they're like really nice books.
Have you tried getting them?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You got them all?
Yeah, we got a few of them. We got the newest one as well, The Way of Kings. The book's so large it comes in 2 leather-bound books.
Do you ever like watch TV?
Yeah, we watch some TV.
What stands up to book reading these days?
Well, what do I like to watch these days? So for a while I was watching the Forged in Fire stuff. And so I told my wife, I'm like, I'm getting a Forged in the garage. And she's like, no, you're not.
So that's like to make your own swords? Like, what would you do with that?
Or just metal. I don't
just
know.
Metal
it would just be fun. It would just be, you just make metal stuff.
I think that's a great idea. Do you have a 3D printer?
No, I don't have a 3D printer.
Maybe that's next.
If they printed metal, I probably would.
So that's it. So like just that reality forging TV, reality TV about forging.
Oh yeah, Forge and Fire is good. Night Fight. I don't know if you've seen Night Fight.
No, what's that?
So there's something. Have you ever been to a Renfest, a Renaissance Festival?
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
They have like the melee fights. You know, the guys in armor, in some
Yeah.
form of armor fighting. Well, they have like an actual professional league called Armored Combat League,
Oh,
and these
wow.
guys are basically like the professional armor fighters. And so they have a season where they do a show, and then these 6 armored fighters fight, and the top guy from that episode goes on to the finals, and then they fight again, and it's crazy. I think it's way more exciting than MMA. I think,
Is it
but
real? Like they're not staged?
no, they're not staged. So like the weapons are blunted,
Okay.
but you're still hitting people with a giant block of metal. So
Yeah, on like really, and you're carrying like heavy.
80 pounds of plate mail. Yeah,
Yikes! And this is like, wow.
it was on the History Channel, so it's for free on YouTube. Just check it out.
I'm into it. History Channel, I think, had this Top Shot. I like watching Top Shot. They come up with some
Yeah,
crazy competitions.
yeah. I can't wait for season 2.
But this is not LARPing. That's what I was going to say. This is
No,
not
no,
LARPing.
no. These guys are definitely not LARPing.
That should be the soundbite. These guys are definitely not LARPing. I love that.
Yeah.
My show has a couple of recurring segments, as I'm sure you know, since you do your homework. Um, one is called Hot Tips. It's time for Hot Tips. It's time for Hot Tips. Hot Tips. Give us the hottest of the hottest of the hottest tips, please. Scorching hot tips. So that, I think you get the idea. We want to hear a hot tip from you. It can be anything. You already gave some good advice about life and everything else. But it can be absolutely anything that you want to bestow upon the audience, something that you consider to be a hot tip. And take your
Okay.
time.
Yeah, right. So it's something I'm working on right now, right? So in a new virtual world, how you appear and sound to your client, right, can be very important. And like this is something I have come to realize in my own job. And so I've taken upon myself to start improving, the quality of my workspace. I'm not using it for this podcast stream, but come Monday, the space is going to be set up.
Thanks for waiting until you do mine on the shitty equipment.
Look, we could. I would do it again. It just came in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, we're not recording. This is going out, big boy.
Yeah. Okay.
We could do another one.
So yeah, increasing the 4K content. Like, there's plenty of people out there who are perfecting the workflows in the software that make this possible to do.
But is this about the technical stuff though? Like, is this about the mic, or is it about creativity and something that's not technical and hardware?
So like, for example, if you're streaming, you could do like a branded overlay for your company. When you're presenting your screen, you could have your branded overlay with your webcam in the screen placed in an area that doesn't obstruct your presentation. And so if you build a streaming workstation as well, you could have your main workstation you're working on just output your video into your streaming workstation so that you're not affected. So like so an example I'd ran into in work is probably not good for recording, but example I'd ran into for work.
It's fine. I mean, we're getting it. Like you want to stream, you want to have the workflow in place, but what are you streaming? Tell me more about the content that you want to be streaming in this new world, in this new virtual world. Like, explain to me how the regular Schmo Joe needs to know about this. Why is it important to us? Why is this a hot tip?
Yeah, why is this a hot tip? I know it's hard, but just presenting yourself well, I think, is really important now in a virtual world. If you want to stay working from home, stay virtual, and you can do it better than everyone else, I mean, you're guaranteed to be employed, right?
Oh, it's an advantage. For example, I'm real good. I'm like a virtual Pavel. Like, I excel at being virtual. I did my whole 5 years of Blue Tree completely virtually, building a remote team. and you know, I'm able to, I think, build relationships virtually, which is like really the key. And presenting yourself virtually is also very important. I mean, I think people separate themselves into camera people and not camera people, and I'm all about
Yeah.
that camera. Turn the camera.
Yeah, I think we don't use the camera enough, and I think the camera can help supplement weaker people skills over the phone, right? So
For
like if they
sure.
can see you, that you're sincere, honest, they have a face to your voice, right?
I look handsome right now. Look how
It would be
handsome I
much
look.
easier to work with someone.
And if you're handsome, it also helps.
Oh yeah, of course.
And so, what is
So
your
yeah, so
what is your hot tip in a sentence? Buy a second workstation to stream on.
pay attention, be camera ready for your meetings. Pay attention to your appearance. Pay
Good
attention
advice
to your
always.
lighting. Yeah, yeah.
Lighting.
Pay attention to your lighting in front of you. Very important. You know, make sure the area that you're going to streamcast from, that they can see you clearly. You know, not necessarily streamcasting, but you're working with people professionally. I know the idea is there. I know the idea is there. I'm just working on it. It's a new idea.
I think you are right. Um,
Yeah.
and I think the
So
way
like,
I would maybe give it as a hot tip to my audience is to say your brand is important. Pay attention to your brand because not everybody is working remotely, right? Like
hmm
I'm sure a lot of my listeners are, but some are not. And then for those people that are not working remotely, they're like, okay, well, I don't, I come in to work in, I'm a doctor. I come in and I have to see patients all the time, even though now we have
yeah.
telemedicine. I'm a veterinarian. You don't really do veterinary over the
After COVID, everybody's virtual now, right?
if
In
it's
some
possible to
form
be
or
virtual,
another.
yes, yes, that's true.
It's some form or another. So if you have meetings with people that are not in your company, or maybe people in your company that are just at a different location at this time, your branding is important to yourself and other people. And there's never a better payoff than now when more people are paying attention
Boom.
to it.
And so, would you put on like a nice piece of clothing? Would you? And see, this is what I think. I think you got to be authentic. You have to
Yes,
brand.
authentic.
Authentic is important, though. If you're not authentic and you have the camera on and you're being virtual, it actually screams it.
Yeah. I don't think the backgrounds, the fake backgrounds, are as effective as having
They're not.
a real background
Like
behind
I
you.
love your background. I would hire you. What do you want to do? Let's hire you right now.
Yeah, no, we're just casual now. But yeah, like you can
I'm
send a
casual
message
always.
to people with your background, by what's in your background, how it's organized, to make up for other people's skills, right? Like there are ways for somebody who's not personable through their voice to be personable in other ways. Like, so some people like need to go into the office to have that personal connection with others, right? And
Yeah,
that's those non-verbal skills that you need to try and transmit, which are all visual.
right. Exactly. And a good hot tip. Everybody enjoyed it. I like it. The other thing I have on the show is the transformation teleportation, sponsored by Elon Musk. He is the owner of Tesla. He is the owner of SpaceX. He might be an alien, Elon Musk. So I have this machine, and like what? It looks like a glass, but a special Elon Musk machine. And
Mhm.
once I put it on my to put it on my head, we'll teleport somewhere. Um, so we can teleport anywhere you want. It'll be fun. We can kind of see what it looks like. It's going to use your memories.
So you're asking me where I want to teleport to if I put this glass on my head?
Yes, and you don't even have to put the glass on. I can do it for both of us.
Always wanted to go to Tokyo.
Wow, this is cool here. Tell me about it. What is this? What am I seeing?
Oh, I'm supposed to use my memories. I'm just saying where I want to
Ah!
go. I'm just saying where I want to go.
All right. Well, have you never seen a movie like Lost in Translation? Maybe you can just use that as your memories. I'm imagining like lots of flashing neon lights, like lots of people moving around back and forth.
I'm
Very
excited for the
friendly.
street food. I want to go check out all their weird little cafes and stuff. I want some sushi off of a conveyor belt.
Hmm.
I want to go play some VR video games in some of the
So
Tokyo areas.
they have some good stuff over there.
Yeah,
What else?
you got very low.
Where else do you want to go?
It's been a long time. I went to Toronto once. I really like the area. I'd love to go back to Toronto again.
What's in like what? Tell me about Toronto. What's cool about that? Whee! Toronto, another TO city. So on the spectrum of teleportation, really easy.
Hmm. So when I went to Toronto, I thought the city was very clean. There was a lot of old architecture around the area. Um, a lot of styling I had recognized from New Orleans and Louisiana area. So we had a very good time walking around through the city, just looking at the different art, and because there's art installations all through the city. It's a very modern city, very modern design city.
Cool.
Um, yeah, we just really enjoyed ourselves. They have good food in the area in Toronto. Of course, everybody speaks English in Toronto as well.
I speak English.
Yep.
Do you speak any French?
Only a little bit. I took like 3 years of French, but hadn't used it in so long, forgot.
It happens.
Yeah. My 5-year-old is in a French immersion program right now, and we're
Wow.
doing homeschool, so I'm picking it up again.
Oh, that's dope. Just like the teachers are always zooming on.
Yep.
What's
Z-
homeschool?
Zooming in French.
Zooming in French? Is that what homeschool is?
Oh, no, no, it's not. It's virtual class until they go back. They go back
It's
not
not
next week,
homeschool.
but the
Okay.
week after. Yeah, yeah. And so then he's going to start learning French I don't know. So him and his little brother are going to be able to talk French, and me and my wife can't. So we're
Learn.
gonna have to learn French, yeah. So they can't talk behind us anymore.
Hey, thanks for talking about. We learned a lot about whiskey. You haven't really talked about New Orleans. I was curious about New Orleans. Like, I guess New Orleans is big. You didn't grow up in proper New Orleans, but still, it's a city with so much energy and so much music and so much good food. Like, um, do you think
Yeah,
people should move here? Like, what's it like really growing up in the city? Like, would you ever, when you were like, would you ever go there a lot? Like, is Tulane in New Orleans?
yeah, yeah. Tulane's in New Orleans, uptown New Orleans. So I guess maybe living here so long, maybe I take like all the festivals all the time, maybe for granted.
Right.
You
Would
know,
you go? Would you go?
yeah, like we used to go. We haven't gone in a while. I guess maybe we're just getting. There's like a point in time after you have kids where you stop going to like anything. So I think we might be over that hump. I don't know, but
Just because always tired.
yeah, and then like you can't really. Do you want to bring your kids with you to these big crowded events in the city? Nah, I'd rather go to other places with them. But yeah, so the festivals, the food's amazing. There's all kinds of small restaurants pop up, gone. Who knows what's coming back now?
I love it.
Yeah.
Great cocktails. Some of the best cocktails in the country, I think.
Oh yeah, Tales of the Cocktails here every year.
What's
And
that?
then they have Tales of the Cocktail. That's when
Uh,
like all the mixologists from everywhere they come all to New Orleans and they hold a convention
oh,
on the state of
dope.
cocktails and how to make cocktails.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, they like present all kinds of new techniques and equipment. They have they call them spirited dinners where they do dinner pairings with food and either cocktails or whiskey. I've gone to Four Roses dinner. I went to an Angel's Envy dinner down here as well, which is
That sounds
amazing.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. and then they have like different contests and stuff. Like they'll have the mixologists at like bars, and then you get tickets. So you can go around and like vote for who you thought was making the best cocktail by putting the tickets in their thing. So that's pretty fun.
That's awesome.
And then it's just the whole atmosphere, the tales of the cocktail is amazing.
What's the weather like in New Orleans? Like, does it snow in the winter?
Rarely.
It gets hot and humid in the summer.
Yeah, it's maybe snowed like 2 or 3 times in my lifetime down here, like enough to collect underground.
What about in the summer?
It gets hot. It gets hot and 100% humidity.
100% humidity. So it's not like the best place weather related. What is the best place to live in New Orleans? Or best months, rather. Best months. Is it spring? Is it fall?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Maybe like I would still come for Christmas. Christmas is awesome. I have a lot of stuff to do around here for Christmas.
Really? What do you do for Christmas in New Orleans?
So they have like the Audubon Zoo has some Christmas stuff going on.
The what?
They have
the Audubon
Zoo.
The Audubon, like the guest, like the German Speedway Audubon? What the hell?
No, like Audubon is an Audubon Institute. That's just the guy's name.
Oh, okay.
It's like a zoo. It's a very large zoo. Very large zoo. It's nice.
It's a public New Orleans zoo that throws a big Christmas party. Cool.
Yeah, they have Christmas themed things there. And then City Park has Christmas in the Oaks, where they have the lights up in the botanical gardens, and then you can walk around and do a bunch of stuff around there as well.
Are you a big Christmas guy? Like, you love Christmas?
Yeah, I think so. I think I like Christmas and Halloween.
Those are
really good around here. Yeah. Voodoo Music Fest was really big.
What's that?
So it's like a multi-day music festival that they hold in City Park, but it's like it's multiple stages, and like each stage will generally have like a theme. Like they'll have like the hip hop stage, they'll have the rock stage, they'll have like an EDM tent set up.
It's like a music festival.
Yeah, but like a big music festival.
That's awesome.
And then like after Voodoo Fest, some of the artists will go out to the different clubs in the city and play. Like Skrillex played at the Dragon's Den one time at Elysian Fields. That was awesome. I'm sorry, Esplanade.
That's fucking awesome.
And that was after playing his set at Voodoo Fest. He just like showed up at the club.
If I wanted to move to New Orleans, where would I live? What do you suggest I get a place?
I mean, right, so somewhere either in the Garden District, maybe uptown.
Nice. That sounds nice.
Over around the area by the fairgrounds, that's closer to the cemeteries and stuff. You'll be like in between the lake and the French Quarter, so you have like a lot of options on stuff you can do.
Yeah,
and then there's like a lot of small corner cafes and bistros that you can just like walk to in that area. And then the streetcar runs along that area too.
That sounds amazing. I'm into it. That was New Orleans. Well, hopefully I can come and visit. We can go out for a drink. Hopefully COVID will go away. What's your over-under on when COVID goes away?
I don't know what. So not until vaccines are readily available are people going to be like willing to take that sort of risk again. And then you have a bunch of people who just don't want to mask for whatever reason. So it could be longer. I don't know, like middle of next year, right? Maybe we should have some vaccines go around, safe enough for everybody to take.
Easy. Yeah,
well, no, Russia's taking them now, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And obviously they called me to ask if it's okay first. And I told them, yeah, no problem.
They asked you because they threw all their doctors out the window.
Yeah. Dude, I hate Russia. And I hate Putin. And Putin, just don't come after me. Just leave me alone. I'm in my La Jolla bubble. I'm not trying to do anything bad. Hey, thanks so much for coming on the show. That was Brent Watkins with Paolo Titlowski, PaoloCast.